You have been told investing is a casino, a room full of screens where people who already have money gamble, and if you walk in with your little bit, you will lose it. So you stand at the door and you never go in. But here is the strange part. The thing on the other side of that door is almost the opposite of a casino, and the people who do well at it are not the ones guessing which number hits. Meet Marcus and Jay. They are made up. I am using them to show you how this actually works, not to tell you who to be or what to buy. But the split between them is real, and it is smaller than you think. Both of them want the same thing. They want their money to grow instead of just sitting there, slowly losing value to rising prices. Neither one has a lot to start with, and both are scared of the same thing, that investing is rigged, complicated, and built for people who are not them. That fear is not stupid. It is exactly what most of the noise around money is designed to make you feel. Because here is who benefits when you believe investing is gambling. Everyone's selling you the thrill of the gamble, the hot tip, the one stock, the app that feels like a game. That is the casino. That is not the thing itself. So this is not a story about Jay being reckless or Marcus being a genius. It is a story about one quiet difference in how they think about the whole thing, repeated for years. Here is the difference, and it is the whole video. Jay thinks investing is picking. Marcus thinks investing is planting. Picking means trying to guess the one winner ahead of time, the single seed that will shoot up while everything else fails. It feels smart. It feels like skill. It is mostly a bet. Planting means something quieter. You scatter seeds across the whole field, you water a little every month, and you let time and the seasons do the part you cannot control. A gardener does not stand over one seed yelling at it to grow, and does not dig it up every week to check. They plant, they wait, they let the field do what fields do. Hold on to that image. It is the spine of everything next. First fork, the very beginning, before either man has invested a single dollar. Same question for both, when do you start? Jay decides he will start once he has enough. Enough to matter, enough to not feel silly, enough that it feels like a real amount. So he waits, and the number that feels like enough keeps moving. Marcus starts with an almost embarrassingly small amount. An illustrative bit each month, a number so small it barely changes his week. That amount is just an illustration to show the shape, not a target I am setting for you. And here is the truth Jay is missing. You do not need a lot to plant. Fractional shares and low minimums are widely available now, which just means you can buy a tiny slice. So waiting for enough is waiting at a gate that is not really there. So Marcus is in the field, planting small, while Jay is still standing at the fence deciding. Same starting point, one is planting and one is waiting. Next fork is the one that feels like the smart move. Second fork, and this is the one that looks like intelligence and quietly does the most damage. What do you actually put the money into? Jay finally jumps in, and he does it the way the casino trained him. He picks one thing, one hot company, one tip he heard, one seed he is sure is the winner. All of it on one bet. Marcus does the boring thing. Instead of picking one seed, he buys a slice of a whole basket of them at once through what is called an index fund. An index fund is simply a single investment that holds a little piece of a large group of companies at the same time. Buy one slice, and you own a sliver of all of them together. That is diversification, which is a long word for a simple old idea. Do not put all your seeds in one spot. Spread them, so no single one failing can wipe out your whole field. Jay's way, if his one seed does not sprout, he loses the field. Marcus's way, some seeds fail, some do well, and he owns the average of the whole thing. He is not trying to be right about one company. He is trying to own everything and wait. This is the heart of planting, not picking. Marcus is not smarter about which company wins. He gave up trying to guess, and that is exactly why he is harder to knock out. Next fork is where the real math finally shows up. Let me show you why the boring, spread-out way has such a stubborn edge, with every assumption on screen and nothing hidden. The engine under all of this is called compounding. Compounding just means your growth starts making its own growth, so the money you gained last year also goes to work this year. Picture Marcus planting an illustrative small amount every month, and I mean small. Let me put a hypothetical growth rate on the screen, clearly labeled, just to make the shape visible. That rate is an assumption to draw the curve, not a prediction and not a promise. The monthly amount is an illustration, not a target for you. Everything on this card is hypothetical. That is the honesty up front. Now watch the shape, because the shape is the whole lesson. For a long time, the line is nearly flat, mostly just the money he put in, barely any growth on top. This is the part that makes people quit. Then, further out, the line starts to lift away from what he contributed. The growth stacks on the growth, and slowly, the curve does something the flat part never hinted at. It bends upward. Notice what did the work there. Not a genius pick, not perfect timing. Just small, plus regular, plus a long stretch of time, left completely alone. Time is the ingredient Jay keeps trying to skip. Now the contrast, and I have to be careful and honest here. Jay's one-seed bet has two possible shapes, and nobody, including me, can tell you which one he gets. His seed might shoot up fast, and for a while he looks like the genius in the room. Or it might wither, and the whole field goes with it. His outcome is a coin toss dressed up as skill. That is the difference between a garden and a gamble. If watching the boring line quietly beat the exciting bet is useful to you, consider subscribing. I make one of these a week. Calm, plain, and fully sourced, with the assumptions always on the screen. Because we are only halfway in. And the next part is the part almost nobody explains. The three things that actually decide whether planting works, and none of them are picking the winner. Back to the field. Here is the first honest truth, and it is the one the casino really does not want you to sit with. Trying to pick winners does not reliably work, even for the professionals. There are highly paid experts whose entire job is to pick the best stocks. And when you measure them over long stretches, according to the SPIVA scorecard from S&P Dow Jones Indices, the majority of them fail to beat a simple index over long horizons. Think about what that means. The people doing this full-time, with teams and data you will never have, mostly do not outpick just owning the whole field. So the question is not whether you can beat them. It is why you would try to play a game the pros mostly lose. And one line I will repeat every time history comes up, because it is the honest one. Past performance is not a prediction. What the market did before is not a promise about what it will do next. So Marcus is not being humble when he refuses to pick. He is being realistic. He looked at the odds of picking and decided to own the field instead. Next truth is the enemy hiding in plain sight. Second honest truth. The real enemy of a long-term investor is usually not a market crash. It is a small number you barely notice. Fees. A fee is just a slice taken off your investment every year, whether it grew or not. It sounds tiny, often around 1% a year. 1%. Who would even flinch at that? But remember, compounding works both ways. Let me put a labeled hypothetical on the screen. A 1% yearly fee taken every year over 30 years on the same money. This card is hypothetical. The assumptions are right there. 1% a year, 30 years. And the point is not the exact dollar. It is the shape. That small slice, taken again and again, eats a real chunk of the field over decades. Jay never checks the fees on his hot bets because he is watching the price and chasing the thrill. Marcus keeps his costs low on purpose because he knows the leak he cannot see is the one that drains the most. This is the boring math the exciting stuff distracts you from. A quiet 1%, working against you every single year, is a real fork. Last truth is the one that lives in your own chest. Third honest truth, and it is the one that undoes more people than any tip or fee. It is not the market that gets you. It is what you do when the market drops. Every so often, the whole field takes a hit. Prices fall, the news gets loud, and it feels like the whole thing is dying in front of you. This is normal. It has happened many times, and over long stretches, the field has historically grown back. Past performance is not a prediction, but the shape has repeated. Here is the fork. On a scary red day, Jay rips his plants out of the ground. He sells in the panic, which turns a temporary drop into a permanent loss because he locked it in. Marcus does the hardest, most boring thing there is. Nothing. He does not dig up the field to check the roots. He lets the season pass because he planted for the long stretch, not for this week. A gardener does not tear out the whole garden because of one cold night. The plants that make it through the winter are the ones left in the ground. Panic selling is just digging up the garden at the worst possible moment. So the three things that actually decide it were never pick the right stock. They were owning the whole field, keeping the fees low and not flinching when it storms. Boring, all three. And boring is the point. So step back and look at the two of them years later, and let me total it as honestly as I can, with the assumptions stated out loud. Marcus planted a small illustrative amount, spread across the whole field, kept his costs low, and left it alone through every storm. Under a clearly labeled hypothetical rate, over a long stretch, the standard compound math shows a curve that bent upward, mostly from growth stacking on growth. That number is illustrative, and that rate is a hypothetical, not a prediction of what you or anyone will actually have. It is just what the arithmetic draws when you point it forward and leave it alone. And J. I am not going to invent a single dollar figure for J, because his path was a bet, and a bet does not have one honest answer. His seed might have shot up, or it might have died. That uncertainty is the whole point. That is the real difference the story keeps proving. Marcus traded the thrill of maybe being right for the steady odds of the whole field plus time. Jay kept the thrill, and kept the coin toss. Same fear at the door. Same small start possible for both. One decided to plant and wait. The other kept trying to pick and kept getting ripped out. The money to start was never the variable. The approach was. So here is the thing the whole story has been saying underneath. Investing is not the casino you were shown at the door. That casino is the picking, the tips, the one hot seed, the app that feels like a game. The actual thing, the boring thing behind the door, is planting. Owning a slice of everything, watering a little on a schedule, and letting time do the part no genius can rush. And a garden does not care how much you started with, only that you planted and that you did not dig it up in the storm. That is the good news buried in all of this. A gardener is not someone who guessed the one magic seed. A gardener is just someone who kept planting and did not panic. That is a thing you get to choose, not a talent you are born with. So before you click away, one quiet thing to sit with. Notice which part of this scared you the most. The starting small, the not picking, the fees, or the not flinching when it drops. That fear is usually pointing right at your own fork. Not a thing to act on today, and definitely not a stock to go buy. Just the piece of planting, not picking that your gut most needs to understand. Because that is the whole point of this channel. We take one money idea at a time and make it plain enough that the fear finally has an off switch. This one was the fear at the door. And if watching the boring field outlast the exciting bet helped it finally make sense, subscribe so the next one finds you. One clear money idea a week, always sourced, always calm, never hype. Quick recap. Two made-up men, the same fear of the casino, and one difference. One tried to pick the winner. One planted the whole field and waited. None of this was advice about what to buy. The characters were illustrations. Every rate was a labeled hypothetical, and nothing here was a prediction. It is just how the thing actually works, so the door stops looking like a casino. So the next time investing feels like a room full of gamblers you are bound to lose to, remember it is a garden, not a table. You plant, you wait, you do not dig it up. Take care of your future self, and I will see you in the next one.